Hey, welcome to Fans of the Forge. I'm Chris. To my left we have...
You got Sean.
To my right we have...
Teresa.
And calling in via Skype, we have Zeke Menacho, a.k.a. Hooligan Zeke. How are you, man?
What's up, guys?
If you don't know who he is, although you should, he is the second place contestant in Knife or Death Season 2 in the Grand Championship. You went up against Keith for the title.
I prefer to call him Keith the Badass Hill.
Keith the Badass Hill.
Man, I love Keith.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy for sure. So we're looking forward to chatting with him as well. But first,
guy is an American ninja.
So we'll hop right into questions here. And the first thing I'm going to ask before we get into the Knife or Death questions is, what is the Dark Timber Brotherhood?
So the Dark Timber Brotherhood was something that we came up with because my friend Peter Kohler started Dark Timber Custom Knives. And while he was doing that, he was working as a respiratory therapist up in Colorado at a hospital. He made his first knife while he was out there, just he couldn't afford like a really good custom knife. So basically he just started making knives. And from that, I bought a knife off him, loved it. We became fast friends. And from that, we started a knife group, but we didn't want it to be like any other knife group. Like you get on some of those knife groups and you see a lot of negativity and a lot of backbiting and a lot of just kind of negative stuff, man. And we were, we're both, I'm in my 40s. He just turned 40. We were both kind of over that. So we just came up with this idea that we're going to bring brotherhood back. We're going to, figure out how to do that online. Love the knife community. And started the Dark Timber Brotherhood. And basically it started off as a group of guys that liked each other outside of Facebook and outside of social media, hung out together anyways, constantly chatted each other up, was, basically just like brothers, man. So we went with the name Brotherhood, and it's blossomed in the 3 years that it's been up. We've gone to 15,000 people. I just put number 15,000, I think 200 in today.
Wow.
So it's a popular idea. It's just something, something different. We get outside, we go outdoors. We all love to hunt. We all love to fish. We all love to track. We all love that kind of stuff. And we all kind of track each other that way. So that's pretty much what the Dark Timber Brotherhood is.
All right, cool. And I asked that because I had come across it going through your Instagram, and I saw that Peter was from Dark Timber Custom Knives, and I know that leads into you being on Knife or Death using the Hooligan Cleaver.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I'd actually been doing knives for longer than Pete, man. I've been in love with knives since I was a kid. I used to sleep with a Randall Bowie under my pillow. That was my teddy bear, man. It was being around knives and being around that kind of stuff was a kind of a long-term thing. And I've had other designs and stuff that I tried to get made with other knife companies, and I got that door put in my face quite a bit, and just gave up knives completely for like 10 years. And then once I got my custom from Pete and that knife company, started to blossom and he started to grow as an artist and all that stuff. One day he hit me up and said, "Hey man, why don't we do a cleaver? It's going to be something, that should be completely different than anything else we got." And I said, "I got one for you, man." And the Hooligan Cleaver was born, and we went back and forth with it. So it's a collaboration. He makes it. It runs on the same handle that we use for the mid-tech lines. But nonetheless, the Hooligan is my baby.
Awesome.
That is cool. We love the design.
Yeah.
Like anytime we've seen you using it, we're like, damn, we need to get one of those.
Well, see, here's the funny thing with the Hooligan. It actually, of course I brought him, but it started out as a 7-inch cleaver.
Okay.
Right. And then we said, okay, that's good for a couple of things. It's like the, kind of apocalypse, end of the world, fun stuff kind of knife. And then we made one that was a 9-inch blade, and then that was the camp version, which is the one we do as a mid-tech right now. And I just got about 6 stitches in my finger because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing with it. So it will cut.
Okay.
But then the knife for death bad boy is this. 14.5-inch blade, CPM 3V, full 3-inch width on it. We basically took that design and modified it. And took all the best of what a cutting competition knife would be that kind of failed in the first season, those little 10-inchers. Love blade sports, have a lot of friends that do blade sports, have the utmost respect for them, but that's not a blade sports course. And decided 14.5 inches would be good for it with a 9-inch handle. Just kind of like the old katanas with the 2-handed grip, so you could get a little bit more control over it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Cool. That actually kind of answers our first question here, and we were going to ask you about how you thought about designing the blade, but you kind of nailed it. So.
Oh no, the design of it, like I said, I'm a knife nerd, man, and a steel nerd, and all the rest of that stuff. So the actual design of it came from the Chinese war cleaver, the Didao. Right, that was used for Chinese. It was actually the Chinese cavalry that was going up against the mounted warriors, and the Didao had a heavy enough blade that it would be able to take out legs and heads from the mounted cavalry. So it was kind of like an equalizer, and I thought, well, hell, if the Chinese did that all those years ago, why can't we do something like that? And it still has that's one of the things that I really liked about their design was it was a cleaver that had a point to it. Mm-hmm. Just in case I didn't know, that you don't get a heads up on what those courses are going to be like. And I didn't know if there was going to be some stuff that you had to stab through. So we kind of went with that one, and it was a different, just an excellent design.
Cool.
Yeah, I know Goldberg and Tulam had some nice things, and Travis had some nice things to say about it too. So it was impressive.
I've never heard so many different pronunciations of a single word in my life. A hooligan cleaver was that. It was the one that killed me, yeah.
So going through your, I guess your first run, when you first came on the show,
okay.
Can you, I don't know, on Decapitator, you kind of had a problem there, and you missed all 3 targets.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I did too. And I'll tell you exactly why. When I went up to it, and I got thrown off because it's nothing but fruits and vegetables. I can't remember exactly what it was on that one. It was like
I believe
easy
it was
stuff, squash and
pineapple and
onions.
And onions. There you go. Nobody's going to hit those onions to begin with.
Right.
That's going to be a given. I don't care how, maybe the blade sports guys will, maybe a big Dwayne Unger would come in there and just demolish that stuff. But for me, I just thought, okay, I'm going to do my best. And then it threw me off really bad. The boxes took more out of me than I thought they would because you have to chase them.
Right.
So, and they do a good job of editing it down for time, while you're looking at it. But in real life, you're chasing those boxes down, and it's almost like you're in a moving batting cage, and you're trying to go after that stuff. So by the time I got to Decapitator, I was already pretty good and winded. But I used to box when I was a kid, so my cardio always goes in 3-minute intervals. Like you're ready to go, you get a lot of wind, you get a lot of power, and then you're ready to sit down for just a couple of seconds, and you just need that time to reset. Decapitator came on so fast that I didn't have that time to reset. Then it threw me off when I went through the pineapple. The pineapple was held on by some kind of metal bracket also. And when I came through it, I brought this thing through, and it put a nick in the edge, and it almost took the tip of this clean off.
Oh, wow.
And when I saw that, I thought, oh, shit. Sorry, I don't know.
You can say whatever you want, man.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, I thought that, and I was like, dang, man, that might mess me up later on down the line. And it kind of played with my head a little bit, so I never got that chance to, reset, find your target, breathe, find your feet, make your cut is the kind of ethos that I had throughout that whole thing.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So what was the ratio of luck versus strategy that got you through kill shot at the very end?
Kill shot on the very end. I don't think luck played a whole lot to do with it. I think that I had a really excellent knife that had a really excellent heat treat that had a geometry that was way too steep for a lot of the things in that course, meaning that my knife was probably over sharp for that stuff. There was a lot of things that I probably could have got hung up on and broke that blade if it didn't come out of like the 2x4s right, for instance. So I honestly, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or conceited in any way, but I don't think that luck played a lot into that one, into kill shot at all. I think that just keep that blade level. I remember I missed that first toe strap on it. And that pissed. Oh, oof.
You had to get creative with the last swing there.
Yeah, exactly. And it was one of those things where it was just thinking about it, it got me mad. I was like, man, I should have took out 4 of those in one hit, and I missed that first one. Now I got to go back and waste the swing. So yeah, I don't think it was a lot of luck. If anything, it was bad luck missing that first one.
Right.
Gotcha.
So we move on to Dead Run for that episode. And for Ball Buster, you missed 6 of those rolling balls. So we have our own ideas of just how difficult an obstacle is by seeing it on TV.
Because it was zero experience.
Because, we have never done it.
And it looks somewhat simple because it's in slow-mo a lot of times.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with Freefall, it's like, oh, how hard is that? But then when they actually show it in like real time, you're like, oh my God, like that's that's almost impossible.
Right.
You know what? Remind me about Freefall, because I'll definitely. There's a reason that looks so. There's a reason that looks so easy, but isn't. And then Ball Buster is one of those ones that, it's super easy. And if that was just like a game at a carnival or something, and you had something that was attached to something else. Yeah, Ball Buster as a carnival trick would be a lot of fun. It would be something that you just go up there like ring toss or something like that. And if you know how to do it, boom, you just walk right through it. But doing it, it's a complete change of gears, because now all of a sudden you're going back into a mode like just like a batting cage, something like that, where you're thinking about something coming at you, and it has nothing to do with how much physical force you're going to put into it. It's about how fast you can make your hands move and how fast you can actually cut those things as they're coming down. And you don't know plus your gas, that first one that you do on the, when you're on that rotating table.
Right.
And you're trying to cut through a bunch of hard things, and it's a power cut kind of deal. It's just a change of gears. And I know they do that for a reason. So it ends up being a little bit tougher than you think. Like if we did that as a trick and we tied a couple of tennis balls on lines and we were just hitting them with, like, say, a broomstick or something, you'd be able to do it no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were asked to do that at like 3 o'clock in the morning after somebody just knocked on your door, and then all of a sudden you're going outside to go do that, and you have all this adrenaline dump that you're just you're dealing with, then it becomes a little bit different.
No kidding.
All right. You said about blade sports. Have you competed in any blade sports, or have you had any interest in competing in blade sports?
I have every interest in the world. I would love to compete in blade sports. Hell, I'd like to be the Dana White of blade sports. Go in and buy the damn thing and just revamp it, update it, and do something fun with it. But unfortunately, on the West Coast, I'm in Long Beach, California. There's not a lot of cutting stuff over here. As a matter of fact, on one of my demo reels, we were cutting stuff, and when we go in the back to fool around with pallets and just all the stuff that normal people would do, like in their backyard, just to mess around with, we would go in the back alley and do it. Well, a couple of times, one time we woke up the homeless guy that was laying on the couch in the back alley, because we live in an apartment. So it was a challenge just to even get practice in for that thing. And yes, I would love to do blade sports. Like I said, I have some friends that were in that or that are in that, that are champions in that do really great at it. And I think that that's one of those things that if enough people had eyeballs on it, could really blossom into something big. Just like I think Knife or Death could, if they just kind of added a little bit more to the backstory of it and told a little bit more, because people are interested in the stories that are told about, the different contestants and what goes into it and stuff.
Yeah, we agree with that for sure. We've had the same thoughts because we got to go to one blade sports competition down in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and got to see those guys live. So it was that was a heck of an experience to watch.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been doing Blade Show. This will be our 5th year going into it. So it was 4 years. And every time, the only time that I take off, it's 4 straight days of just basically standing on your feet for 12 hours and meet and greet and talking about knives and selling knives and all that stuff. And the only time that I go away from the table, and everybody knows it, is between 2:30 and 4 o'clock when they're doing the blade sports. Because I need to see it. I just need to cheer those guys on and get out there. It's like there's no other way to describe it for me. That it reminds me of MMA in its heyday. Like I love the UFC and King of the Cage and all that stuff early on, or early adapter to it. Loved it in the early 90s when I was coming out of high school. Wanted to fight, all that stuff. And it was unsung. People just didn't know about it. And I think blade sports is a lot like that too. It's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to watch. And what's really cool about it is when people see it, it's not like football. It's not like baseball. There's no high money gear that you have to spend. You can run what you brung as long as it's within the parameters of the competition. And it gives people a chance to do two things. They could forge out their own blade, or they can make the connection to get a knife, or they could just flat out, buy one, $180 or whatever it is, and then get into it and do something different. That I think is a great thing because it brings the knife community into a whole nother realm. It enriches the experience for people.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty awesome, and it's not like it. I started to think about if you've seen the timber sports on TV sometimes, where it's guys with the chainsaws and axes and stuff. But
love it, yeah.
It's cool, but with the blade sports, it's a little bit different because almost anyone can grab a knife and jump into that.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I could go do it right now. You guys could go do it right now. All you need is the knife, and it doesn't even have to be yours. You can borrow somebody's. And get in there, run the course, try it out, see what it's like. For me, it reminds me of like bowling in a way, because everybody can see it. Everybody they look at it and they go, I can do that. But you're not going to bowl a 300 just coming from behind whatever you're going to do. Just like you're not going to run a perfect course coming from behind whatever you're doing in your day job. And that timber sports, man, that thing is a lot of fun. But yeah, who has a 30-foot log roll in their backyard that they can go play with?
Yeah.
How did you train for the show?
Well, I overdo everything, first of all. So it may not look like it in the when you're watching me go through the course and all that stuff, but I'm doing about 60 minutes of cardio, 5 to 6 times a day. I'm training like, I would just like if I was trying to fight at 44 or 43 years old. I'm doing a lot of work with medicine ball. I'm doing a lot of work with, upper body, shoulder strength. I'm doing a lot of work with mace training and kettlebells and just things that are kind of off kilter, so I could avoid any kind of injuries when I'm trying to put it out there on the field. And that's and I come at it with like that jock mentality where you got to get ready for whatever it is because you don't know how physically grueling it's going to be. And I didn't want to be one of those guys that was just going to melt out there when you get on it. You think about different things too. There was no way to train for that just simple stuff, the high humidity of Georgia and the like 90-degree heat out there. When you're a California boy and you're used to 72 and sunny and crisp out here by the ocean, that in its own right is something else, man. So yeah, training for me was a lot of that. And I felt good about the knife skills. I've been in a kitchen my whole life. So I wasn't really too worried about any of that stuff. And I've always been super duper hyper destructive when it comes to blowing stuff up with knives. So I knew that would be there. I knew the power and stuff would be there. I was just had to work on the wind, had to work on the cardio a little bit.
So in your first episode, when you first meet the other contestants and you all walk out together for the intros and everything, was there anyone in particular in that group that you saw and you were like nervous, like, oh, this one might give me a real run for my money here?
The thing you have to think about, the way that I look at that is I had to size them up just like I would going into anything. You know, if you're on the football field, you're looking at a guy, you know, if you're a running back, you're looking at a guy that might be a linebacker. So the one guy that really stood out to me was Mark Campana from that first episode from Blade Runners. Mm-hmm. And Mark is awesome. Me and him just clicked right off the bat. We're both a couple of meatheads, both a couple of, just knife nerd type guys. And I thought, okay, he's going to be somebody that I'm really going to have trouble with because he's a personal trainer. He's as big as Goldberg in real life. No joke about it. He's fit and was ready to rock and roll on that thing. Why he wore a headband, I'll never know. But everything other than that, man, it's all that thing was. Yeah, that question was all Mark on that one.
Okay, all right. And so I'll follow that up. You move on to the finale, and you're with all these other winners.
Right.
So same question: when you're grouped up with all these other winners, who else were you looking at? Was Keith the badass like immediately the person that like kind of stood out, or I mean that's a whole group of badasses there,
right? I think no. You know what Keith had? Keith has the same thing that Two Lamb has, and what that is a quiet confidence that is a deep well. You know, they talk about still waters run real deep. And with Keith, he just had a look in his eye that a hunter gets, or that somebody that's confident, that's up at the plate playing baseball, knows that somebody's going to throw a hanging curve and he's going to take it out over the right field wall. And that was the thing with Keith. As humble and as nice and as good of a human being as I've ever met, but he definitely had that confidence. And when it comes to everybody in that finals cast, you know, Joel is a very accomplished martial artist, and he kind of exuded that. You could tell by his body control, just the way he walked and held himself and all that stuff. So you knew that he had something to offer. Eric Hardiman is like 6'6", and just as soon as you see him, you're like, all right. There you go. You got a Viking warrior in your group, so you know he's gonna do whatever he does. And then Big Tom just looks like a straight up power lifter, man. I mean, he was, you know, I'm not a small dude, and he probably had 30 pounds on me. So that group right there was something else. That was a good group.
Can you hear Goldberg yelling at the top of his lungs when you're doing your run?
Oh yeah, that's when you're. Oh my God, when you're out there and you're doing it, you can hear Goldberg saying all his stuff, and you can absolutely hear Two Lamb with every bit of commentary that they have. For me, it's encouragement because Goldberg out there, when you're out there on the field, he's almost like a drill instructor with the kind of things that he's saying, and it's like you understand in your heart that what he's seeing is what you're putting out there. So if you listen to what he's saying, you can almost make changes on the fly because of it. But yeah, you definitely hear those guys.
Okay.
Which obstacle out of all your runs would you consider to be the most difficult?
It would have to have been that fruit on the first run. I mean, as silly as that sounds, because there's so many things that were more difficult. Like the fish was a more difficult cut. The rope killed a whole bunch of people. The boxes were physically demanding. I messed up my hand on that real good. But that fruit, when I got to it, I was just like, Jesus, really? Like one cut on this messed up is going to throw me out of the run. And in real life, on Knife Fight in the finals, I was looking at that celery, and I didn't think I in my mind I was like, okay, just cut everything because you know you're gonna need it when you get down there. And it got into my head, as stupid as that sounds. And I know it's goofy too. That's the funny part about it, because it's just an inanimate piece of fruit that you could cut. Like I cut it in the kitchen all the time.
Yeah.
Of course, I take my vengeance out on it now, but yeah.
What was your favorite obstacle?
Favorite obstacle was definitely the ice, absolutely the ice. Because once, if you look on that first knife fight run, I hit it once, and then I thought, man, I could just juice up and nail this thing, and then every one of them was just one hit after that. And I love it because it's when you hit it, there's so much motion and there's so much involved with it. When you see that block spin off and everything's just kind of blown out there, and it's just like, yeah, that's destruction. That's carnage. That's what I like.
That's pretty good.
I'm good with that.
So let's follow up on the Freefall with cutting those melons. You wanted to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the melons on Freefall. So those three in the finals. When you go to dead run, those are probably the hardest three. Ball buster, you have to really be focused on. It's a hand-eye coordination kind of deal. The one with the swing and meat, flying target, is tough in its own right because it plays with you kind of in your head a little bit. Like, this is so easy, and then the first time you miss one, you're thinking, oh man, what the hell? And then Freefall. Here's the trick with Freefall. Freefall starts regardless of whether or not you're on the line. And if you watch my first run, that didn't click in this cinder block of a head. It just didn't click. And like, I went up there and they were already starting to fall, and I was like, Jesus, this is happening like way too fast. Like, I need to go up there, set up. Oh wait, it's already done. Okay, I'm gonna hit this one. Oh, it's already done. And that first one was like, it moves so fast. If you're even a second off, that there's no way to catch up to it. There's no way to to make up that ground. And if you notice in the finale, I was ready for it that time, and I blame that 100% on Teresa. Your question about training, I started throwing a 40-pound medicine ball, and when I would do it, I'd keep the lights at the gym real low so I could barely see it to simulate what was going on in Freefall. And the other thing is your lenses have all that, all that junk and stuff from the rest of the runs. So maybe you think you're seeing something and it might just be a glare in your glasses or something. Yeah, you got to be ready for that. But the 40-pound medicine ball helped me with that, because if I missed it, it smashed my face, which was not that it could do any damage to all this beauty, but
So, yeah, that was great. Thank you for chatting with us. What's the best place for people to follow you online?
They could definitely follow me at Hooligan Zeke on Instagram. Is the best way to interact with me and the best way to just ask questions. And it's a different kind of deal. It's always like some outdoors, goofy stuff, knife stuff, just me online. They could always come to the Dark Timber Brotherhood on Facebook, the Facebook group. That's a great way to interact. Also, it's also just a great group. Period. I'd be in it if I didn't run it. And I think those are the two easiest ways. And then as far as the hooligans go, that's where you'd find out about the drops and all that stuff. Would be on the Dark Timber Brotherhood.
Awesome.
To get the mid-tech runs and all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for joining us. We had a great time chatting with you. Everybody, make sure to go follow him and rewatch his episodes of Knife or Death to see the badass going through the chorus himself, because that was an awesome. You did great. You did a great job both times, and we're big fans after seeing you in that first episode, and we were rooting for you in the finale. So,
man, appreciate it. Hey, just real quick, I need to give a big shout out to Dark Timber Knives, to Peter Kohler. Without him, I wouldn't have a knife in my hand. I wouldn't have been able to do Knife or Death. And finally, my wife Yvette, just thank you. I didn't get to thank her on the show, but if she didn't put up with my nuttiness and my always wanting to go to the gym and always wanting to play with knives and all that stuff, then I wouldn't have got that shot either. So I want to definitely thank my wife Yvette Menacho. She's awesome. And thank you guys. Listen, I've been nerding out on your guys. We need to get a whole bunch more subscribers for you guys, because I've been nerding out on your YouTube channel ever since Chris, you put me onto it with that thing. So thank you guys, and thank you guys for what you do.
Oh, well,
much appreciated.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you very much. So, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.